Hi, my name is Georgia, and I'm a fourth-year biomedical engineering student at the University of Colorado Boulder. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to use building blocks to measure our heights and record data in an organized manner. Have grown-ups ever told you how big you're getting? Have people ever commented on how much you've grown since they saw you last? Do you ever get your height measured at the doctor's office? How do they measure it? Why do you think doctors want to keep track of your height? As we go from being babies to young children to teenagers to adults, we grow in size, and height is a way to track this growth. Height varies from person to person at every stage of development, even once we're done growing. Healthy people can come in many different heights and sizes. Sometimes doctors use height to make sure children are growing healthy and strong. Doctors' offices may use fancy equipment to measure our height, but we can use building blocks as a different way to see how tall we are. So let's get started. Have a student come to the front and stand against the wall. Place a building block next to the student and see if we can guess how many blocks need to be stacked on top of each other to reach the top of our classmate's head. Record your guesses on chart paper or the classroom board. Have another student help measure the first student. Place a finger where the top of the first block is. Keep the finger there while lifting the block to a position right above the student's finger. Repeat this until the student's finger is at the height of the other student's head. Make sure to count aloud and have another student add tally marks to keep track of the total number of blocks measured so far. When the top of the student's head is reached, it is unlikely that they will be exactly as tall as the top of a full block, so show the students that we can round to half a block or a full block based on what is closer to the student's height. Write down the final measurement and compare this to the guesses made by the students earlier. Are our guesses close to the final measurement? Use more students as examples to repeat the activity until the class has an understanding of what we are trying to accomplish and how. In order to make sure we have proper, accurate data, we must set up how we want to organize the measurements. Sometimes adults use computers to organize information, but we can make our own data sheet using paper and labels. Create a simple data sheet by dividing your group's paper into 3 separate sections, one for each student's measurements, and label each section with the name of the student whose height data will be stored there. Just like how we demonstrated for the whole class, have each student's height measured using the building blocks and use tally marks to track how many blocks tall each student is. Be sure to indicate it when we estimate a half block rather than a full block. Was there anything particularly difficult about using this method to make measurements? Sometimes we can run into challenges when measuring someone's height. For instance, our shoes can make us seem taller than we really are. If we have on hats or headwear, this might change where the top of our head appears to be. It may also be difficult to measure someone's height this way if they use a wheelchair or are temporarily injured and unable to stand upright. Let's compare each group's measurements. Which student in our class is the tallest? Which is the shortest? Without using any collected data, let's line up with our classmates in order of shortest to tallest. Now, let's look at our recorded heights. Does the height order based on the data we collected match up with the order of the students in the lineup? If there are any differences, what may have caused them? This way of finding out how tall we are may leave a lot of room for big estimations. Since we are measuring by way of blocks, we aren't able to have precise data on our height. The information we collect using this method may not be as accurate compared to the data recorded with tools our doctors use. While there may not be a right answer, every student has different judgment that can lead to an over or underestimation of another student's height. We discussed why it might be important to track someone's height as they grow, and how it can apply to physical health. Measuring and collecting data on someone or something's size is very important in the engineering field. Civil engineers may take frequent measurements of man-made structures to assess any potential wear or damage to its composition. We can compare past data to current data and figure out if anything needs to be repaired or rebuilt. Environmental engineers must track things like changing water levels to help with preserving the environment. And aerospace engineers use measurements like distance and fuel amounts when designing airplanes. Size isn't the only thing engineers need to measure. Pressure, speed, force, and temperature are some of the most important factors that go into designing and building solutions to our world's problems. It's critical that researchers and scientists not only take accurate measurements, but also present information in an understandable and organized fashion. Now that you have learned how to measure and record your height, you may start to see how height varies in the people around you. You may also notice how fast you and your classmates grow as you get older. As you go about your day, Think about why we change so much in height and why we stop growing at a certain age. What causes people to become taller as they get older? The doctor's office and the classroom aren't the only places we can track our changing height. Maybe you can ask your parent or guardian at home to measure your height every now and then to see how much you're changing as you get older. Check out the full lesson on the Teach Engineering website. Then, try your hand at measuring and graphing using bar graphs in our associated activity. As we grow, measuring heights and graphing data. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!